Why did no one rush toward her after the first shot? That question would haunt every soldier who stood frozen, their boots buried in the dust while Corporal Lena Rose stared up at the sky she was sure she'd never see again. The world felt strangely quiet, as if even the wind refused to interfere. She tasted metal, blood, and something colder, disbelief. 5 bullets, fired at her, by her own commanding general. She tried to lift her hand, but it barely twitched. Pain radiated outward, hot and sharp, but something inside her felt even heavier. Not fear. Not yet. It was the strange ache of betrayal, a feeling she thought she'd buried years ago. But now it rose up like a ghost she couldn't ignore. Why had he pulled the trigger? General Harlan Keats stood over her, fingers trembling around his pistol, jaw locked like he was fighting an enemy no one else could see. His face wasn't anger anymore. It was something closer to panic. She'd never seen that in him. Not in the years she'd served under his command. Not even during nights when mortars shook the entire outpost. But now he looked human, frighteningly human. "Stay down," he barked, voice cracking as he tried to regain control. She disobeyed a direct order, that's all this is. No one bought it. Not the young private whose rifle hung useless at his side. Not the sergeant whose lips parted but couldn't form a word. Not Captain Torres, whose fury was barely contained behind his rigid posture. And certainly not Lena, who knew exactly what order she supposedly broke: leave the civilian boy trapped under debris during the evacuation. But she didn't leave him, couldn't. The moment she heard his cries, something inside her moved, an instinct older than training, deeper than fear. The instinct to save, even when others chose safety. Now she lay bleeding for it. Torres dropped to his knees next to her. She could feel the warmth of his hand on her wrist, steady, grounding. "You're okay," he whispered, though his voice wavered. "Just stay with me." She wanted to tell him she was trying. She wanted to joke about how medics always end up needing the most medical attention. She wanted to say she wasn't afraid, but her breath caught in her throat, trembling instead of forming words. Something she hadn't told them, something she'd been carrying for months, pressed hard against her ribs. But this wasn't the moment. It couldn't be. Above her the sun blazed. Blue sky, cloudless, beautiful, peaceful, wrong. She blinked, her vision shaking as shadows of soldiers circled around her, unsure whether stepping closer meant defying their general or saving a friend. The silence thickened, pressing down like the heat. Even the outpost seemed to hold its breath. "She's alive," Torres said louder this time, hoping anyone would move. But the general didn't. He didn't order a medic, didn't demand they secure the scene, didn't even lower his weapon. He just stared at her like she was a threat he didn't know how to fight. "She won't make it," he muttered, but it sounded more like he was convincing himself than informing them. Lena's lips parted. A faint breath slipped out, one word quiet as dust. "Son." Torres frowned. "Don't try to talk, save your strength." But she repeated it softer, her voice disappearing into the air. "Son." No one understood, not yet. Her eyelids fluttered heavy. She felt herself slipping, like falling backward into dark water. Voices drifted and warped. She heard someone shouting for medics, boots pounding on the ground, fabric tearing, pressure on her wounds, a mask over her mouth, the faint thump of rotors in the distance. Then nothingness. A long stretching black. When she surfaced again, she wasn't sure how much time had passed. Minutes, hours. The world felt slow, syrup-thick. Shadows moved above her, faces she recognized, others she didn't. The tense lights flickered, creating halos around everyone. She felt a hand in hers, Tor's. His thumb brushed her knuckles, grounding her again. "Don't fight the meds," he murmured. "The chopper's almost here. Just stay awake if you can." She tried, God, she tried. But consciousness slipped like water between her fingers. The last thing she registered was the rhythmic beat of helicopter blades growing louder, heavy boots hitting the earth, men stepping aside, a voice, sharp, filled with urgency, cutting through everything. Where is she? Not a soldier demanding status. Not an officer requesting updates. A man sounding like someone had ripped out his heartbeat. The tent's flap burst open. A silhouette stepped inside. The dust outside swirled in the wake of the rotors, glowing in the harsh afternoon light. The man scanned the room until his gaze locked on her. Lieutenant Aaron Keats. His face drained of color. Lena. Something fragile inside her cracked open at the sound of his voice. Not pain, not fear, but something she'd buried deeper than both. She tried to lift her hand again. She couldn't. She wanted to say his name. She couldn't. She remembered the last time they spoke, quiet, unplanned, the night he left the base for a classified mission. He had asked her one thing, his voice small, his expression open in a way few officers ever showed. "Promise me you'll be here when I get back." And she had smiled and said she would. Now she wondered if she'd lied. Tors stepped aside as Aaron knelt beside her. His hands cupped her face gently, brushing away dust and blood like he could erase everything that happened if he touched her softly enough. "You're supposed to be resting," he whispered, voice cracking. "Lena, stay with me, please." His father, the general, stood at the entrance of the tent, frozen in place. The soldiers turned toward him slowly, expressions hardening. Authority meant nothing right now. Medals meant nothing. Power meant nothing. What mattered was the truth. Aaron lifted his head slightly, eyes burning. "She saved my life in the border raid twice." His voice rose, each syllable sharper than the last. "And you shot her." Gasps, a shift in the air, a shattering of something that had long been protected by fear and silence. The general looked smaller than Lena had ever seen him, like he'd aged years in minutes. Her vision dimmed again. The world blurred into colors and shapes, but before darkness fully consumed her, she heard Aaron's voice, soft, breaking. "I'm right here. I'm not leaving you." And somewhere inside the pain, inside the fear, inside the fragile edge between life and death, Lena felt something she hadn't felt since this day began. Hope. Why was she hearing the same sentence over and over? "She won't make it," when every part of her body still fought to stay alive. That question echoed faintly in Lena's fading consciousness as the world around her pulsed in and out of clarity. She drifted through moments she couldn't fully grasp, voices, hands, movement, the distant flash of the sky above the medevac chopper. But somewhere beneath all of it she sensed fear. Not hers. Someone else. Someone she had never imagined would fear anything at all. General Harlan Keats. Even through the haze, she caught glimpses of him on the edge of her vision, standing rigid, jaw tight, sweat running down his temple. The bullet wounds burned, each one a small explosion of pain, but the expression on his face was something she couldn't name. Regret. Shame. She wanted to believe that even arrogance had limits, but she wasn't sure anymore. The rotors thundered overhead, shaking the ground. Soldiers scrambled aside to clear a path for the stretcher. Aaron gripped her hand as tightly as he dared, walking beside her with a determination she remembered from the night they'd first fought side by side, calm on the surface, storm underneath. "Stay awake," he whispered. "Just keep your eyes on me." If only it were that simple. The sunlight stabbed at her eyes when they lifted her into the helicopter. She blinked against it, trying to anchor herself in something real, something steady. Aaron's face hovered above her, shadows cutting across his features. His worry was painted across him like war paint, undeniable, raw. The medic beside her pressed gauze over the wound closest to her lung. "She's losing blood fast," he said, not loud, but loud enough for Aaron to hear. He flinched only slightly, but she saw it. She always noticed the small things about him, things he thought he hid well. Her eyelids drooped. "Lena," Aaron's voice snapped back sharply. "Hey, no, look at me." She forced them open again. But then she heard it. Not his voice. His father's. General Keats had climbed into the helicopter at the last second. He stood stiffly near the door, gripping the metal rail like he needed it to stay upright. Everyone tensed as he entered. Even the medic paused, unsure if this was an act of authority or desperation. Aaron's jaw tightened. "You don't belong in here." But the general didn't respond. Not a word. He just stared at Lena, no longer the medic he dismissed, no longer the subordinate he shot, but something else entirely. Something that shook him. Her vision blurred again. Darkness swallowed the edges. "Hold on," she thought. "Just hold on a little longer." But the black pulled harder, and she slipped under. When Lena opened her eyes next, everything was quiet, soft, still. For a moment she wondered if this was the afterlife. Then she noticed the faint hum of a generator, the sterile scent of disinfectant, and the gentle tug of IV lines taped to her skin. A medical bay. She wasn't dead. Not yet. Her vision sharpened, and she realized she wasn't alone. Someone sat in the chair beside her bed, head bowed, elbows on knees, hands clasped like he'd been praying even though she'd never once seen him pray. Aaron. His uniform jacket was tossed on the back of the chair. His sleeves were rolled. His hair was a mess, and the exhaustion on his face made him look older, heavier. She swallowed, wincing at the dryness in her throat. "Aaron." His head snapped up so fast she flinched. "Lena," he breathed, relief flooding his features. "God, you're awake." He leaned forward, as if afraid she'd disappear again if he blinked. "How long?" she whispered. 30 hours, he said. "Surgery, blood transfusions, fever. You scared the hell out of all of us." She tried to smile, but her body protested. "Sorry." He exhaled a shaky laugh. "Don't apologize for surviving." But something still lingered behind his relief, something unresolved, something heavy. Before she could ask him, the flap of the med bay opened. Captain Torres entered first. Behind him came a nurse checking her vitals, but then the footsteps changed, slower, heavier, deliberate. "General Keats." The room tensed the instant he appeared. Even the air seemed to thicken. Aaron stood, instinctively placing himself between the general and her bed, body language sharp and protective. "You're not here to finish what you started," Aaron said coldly. The general didn't react to the bite in his son's voice. He stepped forward one slow step at a time. Torres moved subtly toward his sidearm, just in case. "Stand down, Captain," Aaron said without looking at him. The tension in the room crackled like static. Lena's breathing hitched. She wasn't afraid, not anymore, just tired of the questions that still hung in the air. The general stopped a few feet from her bedside. His hands were empty, his expression hollow. "I need to speak with her," he said quietly. Aaron's laugh held no humor. "No, you don't." "It's all right," Lena whispered. Aaron turned to her, disbelief on his face. "Lena," he. "I know," she said softly, "but I need answers too." The anger in Aaron's shoulders eased, replaced with worry. The general approached slowly. His eyes didn't leave her face, not out of intimidation, but something close to pleading. He cleared his throat, but the words didn't come easily. "I misjudged you," he finally said. "I misjudged everything." His gaze flicked to his hands. They trembled. "When you defied my order, I saw my failure as a leader. I saw the part of me that's slipping, the part that's afraid, but I didn't see you, not really." Lena blinked, absorbing each word, not accepting them yet, just letting them land. "I told myself you were reckless," he continued quietly. "But the truth is, you were brave. You did what I should have done." Aaron's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. The general's voice changed, lower, more fragile. "And then," he whispered, "I heard you say son, and I knew exactly who you meant." Lena's chest tightened. The secret she'd held back, the truth she never shared with Aaron because it felt like a thread too fragile to touch. "You saved him," the general murmured, "and I nearly killed you." He swallowed, a painful movement. How do I live with that? Lena studied him. For the first time she saw not the general but the father, the man, the fear he carried, the guilt he couldn't hide. There's something you don't know, she said softly. Aaron tensed. Lena. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying the tremor in her voice. I didn't save your son because he was your son, she whispered. I saved him because I cared about him. Aaron inhaled sharply. The general looked between them, realization dawning slowly. And I didn't say anything, Lena continued, because there was a mission, because emotions complicate chains of command, because I wasn't ready yet. Silence filled the room. Thick, heavy, real. Aaron stepped closer to her, his voice barely above a whisper. Lena, why didn't you tell me? She looked up at him, her eyes shining with something deeper than pain. Because there was something I hadn't told myself, she said quietly. Not until I thought I was dying. Aaron's breath caught. Tors looked away. The general closed his eyes, absorbing the weight of it all. And for the first time since the shots were fired, Lena felt the future shifting, slowly, painfully, but undeniably. Because now there were truths on the table. Truths that could heal. Truths that could break. But truths that could no longer be ignored. She exhaled shakily, her voice barely a whisper. What happens now? Why did the room suddenly feel smaller the moment he asked? What happens now? That question lingered between them like a fragile piece of glass, one wrong word, one wrong breath, and it could shatter everything they hadn't yet said. Lena swallowed hard, feeling the weight of 3 pairs of eyes watching her, all waiting for an answer she didn't have. The monitors beside her hummed softly. The IV line tugged at her skin. Her wounds throbbed with every inhale. But none of that felt as suffocating as the silence that followed her own question. Aaron didn't move at first. He stood at her bedside like a soldier caught between 2 fronts, duty on one side, fear on the other. His father remained a step behind him, shoulders slumped, the arrogance he once wore like armor stripped away. Tors lingered near the doorway, protective, alert, conflicted. Lena forced herself to breathe through the pain. Her voice, though faint, came steady. I don't know what's next, she admitted. Not for me, not for any of us. It was the truth, raw, unpolished, and it scared her more than any battlefield ever had. Aaron gently rested a hand on the rail of her bed, not touching her, just close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. You don't have to decide anything today, he said softly. But she heard the unspoken part of his sentence. But some things will change, whether you're ready or not. She looked at him carefully, the worry etched into his features, the guilt, the unspent anger at his father, the fear of losing her again. Then she looked at the general. His head was bowed, his uniform creased from hours of sitting in chairs too rigid for regret. His eyes, once sharp enough to cut through excuses and hesitation, were now dull, humbled, haunted. Lena exhaled slowly. We need to talk, she said. Aaron nodded, all of us. She hesitated, no, just him. Aaron stiffened, Lena. It's all right, she whispered. I need answers only he can give. Aaron's jaw clenched, but he stepped back. Tors watched them both, then quietly exited the room, giving a small nod to Aaron as he went. The nurse finished adjusting Lena's fluids and slipped out as well. The flap of the med bay closed, leaving Lena alone with the man who had pulled the trigger. The general approached slowly, stopping at the foot of her bed like a soldier awaiting orders. But his voice, when it finally came, was barely a breath. You shouldn't be speaking to me, he said, not after what I did. Lena's fingers twitched over the blanket. Why did you? He inhaled sharply. The question hit him like a blow. Because I saw you hesitate, he said, and when you hesitated, I saw myself. She frowned, confused. he continued before she could speak. That day at the evacuation site when the boy was trapped, my instinct was to retreat, to pull the unit back, regroup, follow protocol. He swallowed hard. Your instinct was to run toward him, without orders, without fear, without thinking what it might cost. Lena breathed in shakily. That's my job, I'm a medic. He shook his head. No, that's your nature. His hands trembled at his sides. And I hated you for it, he admitted, because it reminded me of the man I used to be, before power softened me, before fear hardened me. I saw courage in you that I lost years ago, and I mistook it for defiance. Lena stared at him silently. Every medal I wore, he whispered, felt like a lie when I stood beside you. A faint memory flickered in her chest, glimpses of the general years ago, firm but fair, never flinching, never hesitating. She remembered soldiers once admired him, trusted him, followed him without question. But time had done something to him. Age, loss, pressure, something she wasn't sure she understood yet. You could have just spoken to me, Lena whispered painfully. You didn't have to shoot me. His eyes shut tight. I know. He sank into the chair beside her bed, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. The general, once unshakable, unbreakable, was shaking like a man who finally felt the weight of every decision he'd ever made. I never meant to kill you, he murmured through his hands. I fired because I panicked, because in that moment losing control felt more terrifying than losing a soldier. And when you fell, he swallowed, voice cracking. I realized exactly who I had become. Lena watched him, not with anger, but with a strange, heavy sadness. People break, she whispered, even leaders. He looked up, eyes red. I broke in the worst way. Silence stretched long between them, the kind that didn't demand filling, just listening. Then he whispered the words he had never said to any soldier before. I am so sorry. Lena closed her eyes. For the first time since the bullets tore through her, she let herself feel the weight of everything. Not just the pain, but the betrayal, the fear, the confusion, the unanswered questions. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said softly. Not yet. He nodded slowly. I don't expect you to. But, she continued, opening her eyes again, I believe you're telling the truth now, and that matters more than you think. He inhaled shakily, relief flickering across his face, even if forgiveness was still a distant shore. Their moment was interrupted by the flap of the med bay opening again. Aaron re-entered, shoulders tense, his gaze flicked between them. Everything okay? He asked, voice guarded. Lena nodded. We talked. Aaron approached the bed, standing beside her. The general rose, stepping back. I'll give you two space. But before he left, he turned to his son. You should know, he said quietly, you were right. She saved you, but she also saved me just by surviving. Aaron didn't respond. His face stayed hard, unreadable. The general slowly exited the tent. The room fell into quiet again, but this time the silence felt different, heavier but clearer. Aaron sat beside her. What did he say? He asked softly. Lena looked at him, searching his face. And for the first time since waking up, she let herself be honest. He told me something I think you need to hear too, she whispered. Aaron took her hand gently. What is it? She held his gaze. That sometimes courage doesn't come from strength, she said. It comes from admitting you're afraid. His eyes softened, but there was pain behind them, pain he'd never spoken aloud. And you, he asked quietly, what are you afraid of? Her breath shook, not from injury, but from truth. I'm afraid, she whispered, of what happens if I let myself care about you more than the mission. Aaron swallowed hard. And for the first time since she fell to the ground bleeding, his expression cracked, revealing something unguarded, something real. Then maybe, he said softly, it's time we stop pretending we don't. Her heart pounded. Her wounds throbbed, her future blurred. But for the first time in a long time, Lena felt something rising inside her stronger than fear. Something that might change everything. Hoping. What woke her first, the pain or the silence? Lena couldn't tell, but something felt wrong the moment she opened her eyes again. Not danger, not chaos, something quieter, heavier. The kind of quiet that came before someone confessed something they'd been holding onto for far too long. Aaron was still beside her, but now he looked different. Not exhausted, not panicked, something else. Like a man trying to convince himself he wasn't about to make a mistake or lose something he hadn't even admitted he wanted. He didn't speak immediately. He just watched her, searching her expression as though the answer to his next question was hidden under her bruises. Lena cleared her throat gently. "You're thinking too loud." A soft breath escaped him, half laugh, half heartbreak. "You always notice everything." "I try." Her voice was weak, but her eyes held steady on him. "Tell me what's on your mind." He hesitated for a full second, then two. "Earlier," he began slowly, "when you said you cared about me, was that because you thought you were dying?" Her chest tightened, not from pain this time, but from the vulnerability in his question. Fragile, uncertain, raw. "No," she whispered. "It's because nearly dying made it harder to pretend." He exhaled shakily, like he'd been holding his breath since the bullets hit her. But before he could respond, the med bay flap rustled open again. This time, it wasn't the general. It was the field commander of the entire sector, Colonel Reeves, a man known for sharp decisions and sharper instincts. He carried a tablet tucked under his arm, his expression unreadable. Aaron straightened immediately, shoulders going stiff. "Sir," he said. Reeves nodded, then turned to Lena. "Corporal Rowe, good to see you conscious." She tried to sit up, but Reeves raised a hand. "Don't, you've been through enough." His tone held something she didn't often hear from commanders: respect. Then he glanced at Aaron. "I need a word with both of you." Aaron frowned. "About what?" Reeves exhaled, tapping his tablet. "About the investigation." Lena's pulse jumped. "Investigation?" Reeves nodded. "You didn't think this would be swept under a rug, did you? A general shooting his own medic in front of an entire outpost." His voice softened. "There will be consequences, serious ones." Aaron tightened his grip on the bed rail. "What's happening to him?" he asked, voice low, careful. Reeves paused. Then he answered quietly, "He resigned." Lena blinked in surprise. Not dishonorable discharge, not a tribunal, resigned. "He submitted his papers this morning," Reeves continued. "He refused legal counsel, refused a hearing. He said he'd already seen the truth of himself. That was punishment enough." Lena's breath caught. Her conversation with him, her honesty, had done more than she realized. Reeves stepped closer. "But that's not why I'm here." Lena and Aaron exchanged a quick glance. Reeves lowered his voice. "Your name came up in another report." Lena stiffened. "What report?" she whispered. Reeves studied her, as though evaluating how much she already suspected. "3 weeks ago," he said, "you treated a civilian child during the border evacuation, the boy you saved." She nodded slowly, "Yes." Reeves looked at Aaron, then back at her. "Did anyone tell you that wasn't an accident?" Her heartbeat thudded once, hard enough to make her vision pulse. "Sir?" Aaron asked sharply. Reeves tapped the tablet and turned it toward them. A blurred satellite image, a collapsed building, heat signatures, movement patterns. "The boy was targeted," Reeves said. "Deliberately, someone knew he was there." Lena's breathing stuttered. "Why would anyone target a child?" she whispered. Reeves watched her carefully. "We don't know yet, but intelligence believes he wasn't just a civilian. He may have been connected to a person of interest, someone with information a few very dangerous people didn't want reaching us." Lena swallowed hard. The boy's terrified face flashed in her memory. The rubble, the trembling hands, the way he clung to her uniform like she was the only safe place left. "I just pulled him out," she said softly. "I didn't know anything." "You weren't supposed to," Reeves replied. "But whoever set that trap also knows you were the one who intervened." Aaron tensed instantly. "Sir, is she in danger?" "Possibly," Reeves said. "That's why no one outside this room is being briefed yet." Lena felt a coldness crawl up her spine. Reeves placed the tablet down gently. "Lena," he said quietly, "someone may have wanted that boy dead, and by saving him you put yourself on someone's radar." She stared at him. Slowly, carefully. "Sir," she whispered, "if this is true, then the moment I saved that child, everything changed." Reeves nodded once. "Exactly." Aaron moved closer to her bed, protective instinct rising like a tide. "What do you need from her?" he asked. Reeves took a breath. "I need her cleared for questioning by intelligence the moment she's stable. I need every detail she remembers about the boy. And I need both of you to prepare for the possibility that this was not an isolated event." Lena's voice barely escaped her lips. "What does that mean?" Reeves looked at her, with an expression she had never seen on a commander before. "It means, Corporal Rowe," he said, "you may have just stepped into a story much bigger than the one that put you in this bed." He turned to leave but paused in the doorway. "And Lena, one more thing." She lifted her gaze. "The boy asked for you," Reeves said. "Before he was moved to a secure location, he wanted to know if the woman who saved him was still alive." Her heart twisted painfully. Reeves nodded at Aaron. "You keep her safe," he said, "both of you." Then he was gone, leaving Lena with a truth far more dangerous than the bullets that nearly killed her. Someone out there knew her name. Maybe her face. Maybe more. And they weren't finished. Aaron leaned forward, voice trembling with controlled fear. "Lena," he whispered, "what did you get yourself into?" Her fingers trembled as she reached for his hand, not out of weakness, but out of certainty. "I didn't get myself into anything," she said softly. "I just did what I thought was right." Aaron squeezed her hand gently. His voice broke. "And now it might cost you everything." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she wasn't afraid of her own truth. "I survived 5 bullets," she whispered. "I can survive whatever comes next." But deep inside, beneath her steady voice and brave face, one thought pulsed like a warning she couldn't ignore. Someone wanted that boy dead. And they don't miss twice. Why did her body tense the moment the lights flickered overhead? Lena didn't know what triggered the instinct, only that something inside her, the same quiet intuition that had saved her on countless missions, whispered that the danger she feared wasn't far away anymore. It was here, close, patient. Aaron noticed instantly. "You okay?" he asked softly, voice tight with concern. She nodded, but her fingers curled subtly into the blanket. He saw the movement, his eyes sharpening with the same unease she felt. The med bay had emptied after Colonel Reeves left. Nurses quietly tended to other patients. Rain tapped softly against the canvas roof, a rare downpour that cooled the desert air and drowned out distant bass noises. Everything should have felt calm. But something didn't. Not anymore. Lena shifted slightly, careful not to pull her stitches. Aaron closed the flap. He didn't question her. He rose silently, stepping to the tent entrance and letting the thick canvas fall shut. When he turned back, his eyes met hers, and she knew he sensed it too now. Something had shifted. He crossed back to her side. "Tell me what you're feeling." She swallowed, like the room isn't safe. Aaron's jaw tightened, because of the boy. Because of whoever wanted him dead. Her voice trembled despite her effort to steady it. Aaron sat back down, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, mirroring the posture his father had taken hours earlier, but with a deeper desperation. "Lena," he said quietly, "if someone truly targeted that kid, that means someone orchestrated the collapse. Someone knew our evacuation route. Someone fed intelligence to our enemies." Lena closed her eyes briefly. "It means there's a mole," she whispered. Aaron didn't respond, but the silence answered for him. A mole. A betrayal. Inside their own ranks. The thought wrapped around her ribs like cold wire. A faint beeping from her monitor pulled her attention back to the present. Her own heart rate had spiked. She tried to calm her breathing, but an uneasy thought coiled in her mind. "What if I wasn't supposed to survive?" she whispered. Aaron froze. "Don't say that." "No," she insisted softly. "Think about it. If someone orchestrated that attack, if the boy was just a pawn, then anyone who saved him would become a threat." Aaron's fingers curled into fists. "And you think General Keats?" "No," Lena cut him off quickly. "He made a terrible choice, a personal one, but not this." Aaron exhaled shakily, relieved, not for his father's sake, but because the alternative was far worse. "If the general didn't want you dead," Aaron said, "then someone else did." Lena nodded slowly. "Someone who didn't want the boy to talk, someone who didn't expect me to make it out." Her voice grew quieter. "Someone who might be on this base." Aaron stood abruptly, packing once, twice, 3 times, like a soldier trying to burn off fear through movement. His boots thudded softly against the canvas floor. Then he stopped beside her bed. "Lena, listen to me," he said firmly. "You're not safe here." Her breath caught. "It's the only place I can heal," she said softly. Aaron's expression hardened. "Then I'll stay with you." His voice left no room for argument, and part of her wanted to believe that was enough, that his presence alone could shield her from whoever lurked behind the shadows. But another part whispered the truth she didn't want to admit. Aaron couldn't protect her from a threat he couldn't see. A sudden gust of wind rattled the tent walls, making both of them flinch. Lena pressed her hand to her sternum, breathing through the throbbing pain. Aaron reached out, taking her hand gently but firmly. "Talk to me," he murmured. "What else are you thinking?" Lena's eyes drifted to the side, toward the shadows pooling near the storage trays, the dark corners untouched by the overhead lamp. Her voice came out barely audible. "That boy, when I pulled him out, he said something." Aaron leaned closer. "What did he say?" She hesitated, not because she wanted to hide it, but because she hadn't allowed herself to think about it until now. "He said, 'They're coming for me.'" Aaron's grip tightened. "Did he say who?" he asked, voice taut. "No," she swallowed. But his fear wasn't the fear of a child caught in an explosion. It was deeper, like he'd known danger long before that building collapsed. Aaron glanced at the flap again, checking the shadows behind him. "Why didn't you tell Reeves?" he asked. "I didn't know if it mattered," she whispered. "But now everything matters." Aaron nodded slowly, mind racing behind his eyes. Then he asked a question she wasn't prepared for. "Lena, has anyone else questioned you since the incident?" Her breath hitched. "No, just Reeves." "Anyone visit you? Anyone ask unusual questions?" She shook her head. Then a memory flashed briefly. Not a conversation. A sound. During the night, somewhere between her dreams and the fever, she remembered faint footsteps inside the med bay. Close, too close. She had thought it was a nurse, but no one had been standing there when she opened her eyes. Her skin tingled cold. "Aaron," she whispered, "someone was in this tent last night." His face hardened instantly. "Who?" "I don't know. They left before I fully woke up." "You should have told me." "I didn't know if it was real," she looked away, "or a dream." "Dreams don't stare at you from the shadows." The intensity in his voice sent a deeper shiver through her. Her monitor beeped faster. Aaron pressed 2 fingers to her wrist, checking her pulse, not as a medic, but as someone terrified of losing her again. "We're moving you," he said suddenly. "Now." "What?" "I'm taking you to a secured medical bay, one with restricted access." "Aaron, I can barely stand." "I'll carry you if I have to." She opened her mouth to protest, but the med bay flap rustled again. Both their heads snapped up. A figure entered, hooded under a rain poncho, face shadowed. The storm behind them roared, cloaking their steps. They walked too quietly, too confidently. Not a nurse. Not a soldier. Not someone who belonged. Aaron moved instinctively, stepping in front of Lena, hand drifting to his sidearm. The figure stopped 3 paces inside the tent. For a second, too long, too silent, they didn't move. Then they lifted their head just enough for Lena to glimpse the lower edge of a jaw she didn't recognize. "Corporal Rowe," the voice asked softly. Aaron's thumb found the release on his holster. "Who are you?" he demanded. The stranger paused, then smiled. Lena's blood ran cold, because that smile held no warmth, only intention. "I'm here," the stranger said quietly, "because you saved the wrong child." Aaron drew his weapon. In the same instant, Lena's heart nearly stopped. The tent exploded into motion. And in that single, shattering moment, Lena realized something she had feared from the beginning. The danger wasn't coming. It was already here. Why didn't the stranger flinch when Aaron drew his weapon? That was the first thing Lena noticed. The stillness, the calm, the way the intruder stood as if bullets wouldn't matter. As if they'd expected this reaction. As if they'd rehearsed it. Aaron positioned himself fully between Lena and the hooded figure, feet planted, body angled just enough to shield her while keeping a clear shot. Rain hammered the tent roof like distant artillery. The air tightened. "Last warning," Aaron growled. "Identify yourself." The stranger tilted their head slowly, like someone studying prey that had just revealed claws. Then, almost politely, they lifted both hands, not in surrender but in a gesture of patience. "You don't want to do this," the voice said softly. The softness made it worse. Aaron cocked his pistol. "Try me." Lena's pulse raced. Her breathing hitched. She shouldn't have been sitting up. Her stitches pulled painfully with each inhale, but fear forced her back into the present. The stranger's attention drifted past Aaron, landing directly on her. "Corporal Rowe," they said, "you should have let the boy die." Lena's throat tightened. "Who are you?" The figure reached up slowly and pushed back the hood. A woman. Not much older than Lena. Hair pulled tight. Eyes cold, not the cold of cruelty, but the cold of certainty. A kind of missionary allegiance that terrified Lena more than any weapon. "You don't know me," she said calmly, "but I know you." Aaron's stance stiffened. "Step away from the bed." The woman gave him a small, almost pitying smile. "Lieutenant, if I wanted her dead, she wouldn't have survived the evacuation." Lena flinched. Aaron's grip on his weapon tightened until his knuckles paled. "Explain," he demanded. But the woman ignored him, eyes locked solely on Lena. "You saved a child," she said, "but you didn't ask why he was there, why he was alone, why that building was rigged." Lena's heart hammered. The intel said it collapsed from shelling. The woman shook her head slowly. "No, it was leveled from the inside." Aaron's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. "Who sent you?" She finally looked at him. "Someone who wants to avoid needless bloodshed." Aaron's jaw clenched. "Then you picked the wrong tent." The woman sighed lightly, as though disappointed. "Corporal Rowe," she continued, "the boy wasn't supposed to survive, but you changed the outcome, and that means you've put yourself and others on a path that cannot be undone." "I did my job," Lena snapped, pain lacing her voice. "No," the woman corrected, "you interfered." Aaron stepped closer, gun raised. Take one more step toward her and I swear. Aaron, Lena's voice cut through the rising tension. Wait. He shot her a look, fury and fear warring behind his eyes. Lena, she's a threat. No, Lena whispered, staring at the woman. She's a messenger. The woman's mouth twitched, almost impressed. You understand, she said softly. Good. Aaron blinked, disbelieving. What the hell are you talking about? The woman shifted her gaze back to Lena. There are forces moving across this border you don't understand. That boy was leverage, a key. He carries something that others want, something dangerous. What kind of something? Lena asked. The woman hesitated, just for a heartbeat. A name. Aaron stiffened. Whose name? The woman's eyes sharpened with something like warning. You're not ready for that. You let me worry about what I'm ready for, Aaron snarled. The woman studied him with a detached curiosity. You care for her. That makes you predictable. Aaron's finger tightened on the trigger. Say that again. Aaron, Lena whispered sharply. Focus. It took effort for him to look away from the woman. But when he did, he found Lena's eyes, and she saw fear in his that she'd never seen before. Lena, he said, voice rough, we need to get you out of here. The woman smiled faintly. Too late. The lights flickered again, once, twice, then steadied. Lena's stomach dropped. Don't, she whispered, don't tell me. The woman nodded almost sympathetically. Power grid been cut to this sector. Not by our forces, by someone inside your base. Aaron swore under his breath. Sabotage. Here. Now. You're lying, he snapped. But Lena felt it, not in her body's pain, in the air, in the quiet shift of something far beyond this tent. The woman took one slow step back. My task isn't to kill you, Corporal Rowe. My task is to warn you. Warn her about what? Aaron demanded. The woman's eyes dimmed with something grave. About the man coming next. Lena froze. Who? The one who ordered the boy's death. The one who knows you saved him. The one who knows you're alive. A chill ran down Lena's spine, colder than any wound. Aaron tried again. Who is he? The woman exhaled. I can't say his name, because if I do, that boy dies. The tent rustled violently, wind slamming against it. The woman pulled up her hood again. You have 24 hours, she said softly. Less if he decides patience is no longer useful. Aaron aimed again. You're not going anywhere. But she stepped back once more, and in the same moment a flash of lightning illuminated the tent. She vanished into the storm as if swallowed by the rain itself. Aaron cursed and lunged toward the entrance, pushing the flap open, scanning the base. No silhouette. No footprints. Nothing. She was gone. He stormed back inside, breath harsh, adrenaline burning through him. Lena, he said, voice trembling with fury and fear, we need to move, now. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her ribs like fire. She winced, gripping his wrist. Aaron. No, he snapped, panic rising. Don't you dare say we stay. We don't stay, she whispered. He paused. We run, Lena said, before he comes for me. Aaron's eyes hardened with a decision that would change everything. Then I'm running with you, he said, and I'm not letting you out of my sight. Lena nodded, her pulse racing. But even as she agreed, one truth echoed louder than the storm outside. If someone wanted that child dead, they'd stop at nothing to silence the woman who saved him. And she had just been given 24 hours to stay alive. Why did her heartbeat feel louder than the storm outside? Lena couldn't tell if it was fear, adrenaline, or the weight of the choice she had just made. Run. From whom? Someone powerful enough to send a ghost into a military base. Someone bold enough to sabotage power lines. Someone who wanted a child dead and now wanted her erased just as quietly. Aaron didn't waste a second. He grabbed her medical chart, tore out the page with her status report, balled it in his fist, and tossed it into a tray. Then he unplugged her monitor, silencing the beeps before anyone noticed. "Aaron, slow down," Lena whispered, breath tight from the sudden motion. "I'm not losing you again," he muttered. "Not to an enemy I can't see, not to someone who's already inside our wire." He moved around the med bay quickly, with the controlled chaos of a soldier preparing for a fight he didn't choose but would damn sure finish. He checked his sidearm, loaded. Checked the backup magazine, full. Checked the tent entrance again, clear for now. Lena watched him, a knot twisting in her stomach. He'd always been composed, even under fire, but this wasn't battlefield tension. This was personal. "Aaron," she said softly, "I need to stand." He spun back toward her. "Absolutely not. I can't run if I'm lying here." His jaw flexed. He hated that she was right. When he finally stepped closer to help her, he hesitated, not because he doubted his strength but because he feared hurting her. His hands hovered over her sides, careful, unsure. "Tell me where it hurts." She almost laughed. "Everywhere." His eyes softened, just a flicker, but enough to remind her he wasn't just acting from duty. He was acting from fear. He slid one arm behind her shoulders, the other under her legs, and lifted slowly. Pain shot through her abdomen, sharp enough to steal her breath. She gritted her teeth. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'm good." "You're not good," he murmured, "but we'll get there." He lowered her feet to the ground. Her legs trembled violently, but Aaron steadied her with a hand on her waist, guiding her until she leaned against him. "Breathe," he whispered. She did. But something felt wrong. Not the pain, not the instability. The silence. The storm still raged, but outside the med bay no chatter, no footsteps, no patrol calls, no radio static. Too quiet. Aaron noticed it too. His eyes snapped toward the flap. "Where is everyone?" he muttered. Lena swallowed, either moved or told to stay clear. Or he stopped himself, but she knew the end of that sentence. Or someone cleared the area for a reason. He reached for her medical bag, only to find it missing. Lena's breath hitched. It was right there. Aaron's features hardened. Someone was here recently. Her blood ran cold. The person from last night. Before he could answer, voices drifted faintly from outside. Not normal conversation. Not relaxed. Urgent, fast. Too many footsteps moving at once. Aaron's hand shot to his gun again. He guided Lena behind the interior curtain that separated the beds, pressing her lightly against the metal frame. "Don't move," he whispered. She nodded, gripping the blanket around her waist to stay upright. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Then, the med bay flap ripped open. Flashlights cut through the dimness. "Clear this section," someone barked. Aaron stiffened. Lena froze. These weren't medics. Not MPs. Not Reeves officers. These voices carried a different tone. Cold, clipped, coordinated. Then she heard the worst word possible. "Find the medic." Aaron's jaw locked. He turned to Lena silently, eyes saying everything he couldn't say aloud. "They're here for you." He braced himself, ready to fight if he had to, but Lena grabbed his wrist. "Aaron," she whispered, "if you shoot they'll label you compromised. They'll take you too." "They're already taking everything," he whispered back. She shook her head, forcing her breath steady through the pain. "You can't protect me if you're dead." He swallowed hard. She watched the battle behind his eyes, his training versus his instinct to shield her with his own body. Outside the curtain, boots thudded heavily. "Check this row." Nothing. Next. Flashlights swayed across the tent. Aaron leaned close, voice barely a breath. "Tell me the plan." She met his eyes. We go under, she whispered. He blinked. Under. She nodded toward the rear wall of the tent, the one she'd noticed earlier during her restless half-sleep. A low-maintenance hatch barely visible behind stacked supply crates. Aaron followed her gaze, then exhaled through his nose. You're incredible. He moved quick but silent, sliding crates aside, lifting the flap of canvas, and revealing a metal access plate leading to the narrow crawl space where electrical cables and communications conduits ran. Small, cramped, hidden. Perfect. Aaron returned to her, gripping her gently. This is going to hurt. Then hurry. He lifted her again, this time with no hesitation, and carried her toward the hatch as the search team approached the last row of beds. Flashlights grew brighter. Boots grew louder. Shadows stretched across the curtain. Aaron lowered Lena into the hatch first, helping her down carefully until her feet touched the grated metal floor. She gripped the wall to steady herself. Hurry, she whispered. He crouched, ready to slip in beside her. Then the curtain jerked open. Flashlight beams exploded in their direction. There. Aaron dove into the hatch, slamming it shut just as a hand reached for it from above. A fist pounded the metal. Shouts erupted. Seal the exits. Lock down the mid-bay. She's in the crawl space. Aaron grabbed Lena's hand. We move, he said. He led her into the darkness of the narrow conduit, guiding her forward with one hand while keeping his weapon ready in the other. The sound of boots thundered above them. Shouts echoed. Metal clanged. Lena's breath trembled. Not from fear. From the truth forming sharp and undeniable in her mind. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a hunt. And she was the target. What kept her moving? Fear, adrenaline, or the steady pressure of Aaron's hand around hers? Lena couldn't tell. All she knew was the narrow conduit felt too tight, too dark, too close to the enemy closing in above them. The metal grates vibrated with boot steps pounding along the med-bay floor. Voices echoed through the vents overhead, muffled but clear enough to chill her. Block the north exit. She's injured, she can't have gone far. Check the crawl junctions. They were organized, coordinated, not panicking, not guessing. They knew the layout. They knew where she'd run. They knew exactly who they were hunting. Aaron guided her around a bend, crouched low to avoid the pipes overhead. The glow of emergency lights blinking faintly along the floor cast eerie flashes across his face, half shadow, half determination. Slow down, she whispered, gripping his forearm as pain shot through her ribs. I can't go that fast. He stopped instantly, turning to steady her with both hands. Sweat beaded at his brow, not from effort, but from fear. You tell me the pace, he murmured. I'll match it. Her breath shook. Aaron, you don't have to do this. Yes, he said fiercely, I do. Another thunder of boots hit overhead. The metal ceiling trembled, dust raining down over them. Lena winced, and Aaron pulled her slightly closer, shielding her instinctively. He waited until the noises faded, then nodded toward a narrow branch in the conduit, a darker slit barely wide enough for one person. This way leads to the generator room, he whispered. There's a back exit we can slip through. You're sure? Yes. But something in his voice betrayed hesitation. How sure? She pressed. He hesitated. 70%. 70. It's the best we've got. Above them a new voice bellowed, one Lena hadn't heard yet, something colder, commanding. Check every junction, we need her alive. Alive. Not dead. That terrified her more. Lena met Aaron's eyes. They want to take me. They won't get the chance. His voice was raw steel. She swallowed hard. Aaron, whoever's behind this, whoever this man is, he must think I know something important. Aaron nodded grimly. and that means he'll throw everything he has at you. A metal clang rang out nearby, so close Lena flinched. A flashlight beam cut through the grate ahead of them. "They're scanning the conduits," Aaron whispered. He grabbed her hand. "Move now." They crawled deeper into the shaft, their breaths loud in the cramped metal tunnel. Lena's stitches pulled with every movement, dizziness flickering at the edges of her vision. She blinked hard, refusing to falter. Not now, not when every second mattered. A junction appeared, a fork splitting into 3 narrow paths. "Which one?" she whispered. Aaron paused, scanning markings on the pipes. He brushed his fingers over faded stencils. Genby, Waterax, Comsi. "This one," he whispered, tapping Genby. They crawled into the slanted branch. It dipped sharply. Lena slid awkwardly, her boots scraping metal. Aaron caught her waist, lowering her gently to avoid jerking her wounds. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." She nodded weakly. The deeper they went, the quieter the sounds above became. The storm outside rumbled like distant artillery, and for a brief moment Lena thought they'd escaped detection. Then, a metallic screech echoed from behind them. Aaron's head snapped up. What was that? Lena's pulse raced. Someone opened the hatch. He swore under his breath, "They're in the conduit." As if confirming his words, a voice drifted faintly toward them, far but not far enough. "She's bleeding, follow the drops." Aaron's eyes widened. Lena glanced down. A thin trail of dark red smeared the grate beneath her. "Aaron." "I know," he said, jaw tight. "We move faster." But her legs were shaking. Sweat soaked her hospital gown. Dizziness threatened to swallow her whole. "Aaron, He didn't let her finish. He turned, crouched low, and lifted her onto his back in one swift, controlled motion. She gasped. "Aaron, no, you'll slow down." "You think I care about speed," he hissed. "I care about you staying alive." She stilled, arms instinctively slipping around his shoulders. The moment she did, something inside him hardened, resolve locking into place like a loaded chamber. He moved quickly, silently, carrying her deeper into the narrowing conduit. The metal walls pressed close to his shoulders. His boots thudded softly, careful but urgent. "They're getting closer," Lena whispered, feeling the vibration of approaching steps through his back. Aaron didn't look back. "Then we stay ahead." Her cheek brushed the back of his neck, warm, tense, alive. A reminder that she wasn't alone in this darkness. He was risking everything to keep her breathing. "Aaron," she whispered, voice trembling, "you don't have to carry me." "Yes," he murmured without hesitation, "I do." She closed her eyes, not from fear, but from the swell of something heavier than pain. Trust. She trusted him more than she trusted her own legs. Suddenly, the conduit opened into a wider junction, one metallic hatch leading down a ladder into darkness. Aaron scanned quickly. "This is it. Generator bay is below." He shifted her weight carefully, preparing to climb down with her still on his back. But before he could take the first step, a flashlight beam streaked across the tunnel behind them. A voice barked sharply. "There." Aaron spun. A shadowed figure crawled toward them, fast, practiced, unhesitating. Lena's breath caught. Not a soldier. Not a medic. Not base personnel. The same woman from the storm. Her hood was gone. Her movements were fluid, lethal. Aaron drew his weapon, aiming down the tunnel. "Stop right there," he barked. The woman kept crawling. Lena clutched Aaron's shoulder. "She warned us. Maybe she's not here to hurt." "She followed us," Aaron snarled. "She brought them." "No," the woman snapped, voice sharp, echoing through the metal. "I held them off for as long as I could." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Why would you help us?" "For the same reason I came earlier," she panted, closing the distance. "You're running into the wrong exit. They're already waiting below the generator bay." Lena's pulse pounded. A trap, she whispered. The woman nodded, breath uneven. A choke point. They'll take you alive the second Aaron climbs down that ladder. Aaron's grip tightened on his pistol. How do we know you're not lying? You don't. Her voice was blunt, urgent. But if you go down there, she won't make it out. Lena stared at her. Then where do we go? She asked. The woman pointed to a panel on the right, small, almost invisible. That leads to the comm tower maintenance line. Aaron frowned. That route is sealed. Not tonight, the woman said. Someone unsealed it during the power cut. Lena exchanged a tense look with Aaron. Who, she demanded, who did that? The woman hesitated, then spoke the words that made Lena's blood run cold. He did. Aaron's face drained, the man hunting her. The woman nodded. He wants her alive, she said quietly. He's clearing her a path. Aaron stiffened. Why would he make this easy? Because, the woman whispered, he doesn't want to chase her. She locked eyes with Lena. He wants her to come to him. A chill sliced through Lena's spine. The woman extended her hand toward the hidden panel. You can trust me, she said. Aaron raised his pistol again. Give me one reason. The woman's gaze didn't falter. Because if she dies, she whispered, everything he built stays buried, and that boy dies too. Silence hung thick between them. Lightning flashed through a vent above, cold, bright, blinding. Lena's voice was barely a breath. Aaron, what do we do? He looked at her. Her wounds. Her shaking legs. Her pale skin. Her fear. Her courage. Then he looked at the woman. And made his choice. He shifted Lena gently on his back, tightening his hold on her. We go through the panel, he said. Lena exhaled shakily. But even as they moved toward it, one truth pulsed louder than her heartbeat. This path wasn't escape. It was invitation. And she was walking straight toward the man who wanted her alive, for reasons she still didn't understand.